Ted is 71 now, and the way he used to live was just awful. We all remember the million-dollar man scams his family pulled, plus his struggles with drugs and alcohol. But then he left all of that behind, became an ordained minister, and that's when everything started to change for him. So let's find out exactly what happened. He has never hidden the fact that his life once went down a very dark and awful road. Back in the days when he was the million-dollar man, he looked like he had it all: fame, money, and the spotlight every night. But behind the character, things were completely different. He has admitted that he struggled badly with alcoholism, drug use, and even infidelity. The non-stop on-the-road wrestling lifestyle might have looked glamorous from the outside, but for him it was eating away at everything that truly mattered. It nearly cost him his family, the very people he loved most. And of course, there's one chapter that still sticks in people's minds: the infamous $2 million scandal involving his family. That story alone was enough to tarnish his name for years, and it became another reminder of just how far things had fallen apart. Life was simply awful at that point, and it seemed like he was heading toward losing everything for good. But here's the thing about life: it gives you chances to change if you're willing to take them. And that's exactly what he did. After stepping away from full-time wrestling, he realized he couldn't keep going down the same path. He needed something different, something meaningful, something that would pull him out of the mess he had made. That's when he turned to Christianity. Becoming an ordained minister gave him a brand new purpose. Instead of being remembered only as the million-dollar man, with all the scandals and bad choices attached, he started using his life as a story of redemption. He began sharing openly about his struggles and his mistakes, not to brag or make excuses, but to show people that change is possible. He started speaking at events, telling crowds about how he nearly lost it all and how faith helped him rebuild. Now he runs a Christian ministry where he continues that work. He talks about his past not with shame, but with honesty, turning all those awful chapters into lessons that can help others. For him, it's no longer about playing a character or living a flashy lifestyle. It's about showing people that no matter how bad things get, you can still turn it around. And that's the story of how he went from living in the shadow of his awful past to finding light, peace, and a brand new purpose in life. But before all the scandals, the struggles, and the drama, who was he really? Let's take a step back and look at the true wrestling star behind it all. Ted's career began in Amarillo, Texas, under the guidance of two of the most respected names in the sport, Dory Funk Jr. and Terry Funk. The Funks were known for producing tough wrestlers, and training with them meant you were going to learn wrestling the right way, inside the ring and outside of it. He didn't step straight into the spotlight, though. In June of 1974, his very first role in the business was as a referee in the Funk's Amarillo territory. That was his first real taste of the business, and it gave him the chance to learn the ropes before ever lacing up his boots. But he wasn't going to stay a referee for long. By 1975, he moved into Bill Watts' Mid-South territory, where he was promoted as the son of wrestler Iron Mike He, keeping alive the legacy of his stepfather who had passed away in the ring years earlier. This gave Ted a strong backstory that connected him to fans right away. His first official match wasn't a win, though. He lost to the legendary Danny Hodge. For most wrestlers, losing their debut could have been discouraging, but Ted kept grinding. He stayed in Mid-South for about 4 years, sharpening his skills, learning from veterans, and building his reputation as a wrestler to watch. By February 1978, his hard work paid off when he defeated Dick Slater to become the Missouri State Champion. That was a huge deal at the time, because Missouri was one of the NWA's most respected territories, and the title had been held by some of the biggest names in wrestling. Unfortunately, his reign didn't last long. He lost the belt to Dick Murdoch just a few weeks later. Still, that run put him on the map and showed fans and promoters alike that he had star potential. In 1979, he made his first move to the big stage of Vince McMahon Sr.'s Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which shortly after became known as the WWF. On February 13th of that year, the WWF created a brand new title, the North American Heavyweight Championship, and he was chosen to be its very first champion. That was a major honor, and it showed how much faith the company had in him. Unfortunately, just a few months later in June, he dropped the title to Pat Patterson. Even so, Ted had etched his name into the history books as the inaugural champion of that belt. Not long after, he found himself in another huge moment. He was the very first opponent for Hulk Hogan in Madison Square Garden. At the time, Hogan wasn't yet the megastar he would become. But looking back, it's wild to think he played such a big part in that early chapter of Hogan's career. After that, he moved around to different territories, including Georgia Championship Wrestling, where he started to gain even more attention. One storyline in Georgia became the stuff of legend. In an angle that looked so real it made fans cry, he took not one, not two, but 4 pile drivers from the fabulous Freebirds, 1 on the concrete floor and 3 more in the ring. His tag partner, Tommy Wildfire Rich, had to throw in the towel because the beating looked so brutal. Fans in the WTBS studio were convinced Ted had been seriously injured, and their reaction made the angle unforgettable. Through the early and mid-1980s, his career took him to almost every major territory. In Mid-South, he had memorable feuds with stars like Ric Flair, Paul Orndorff, Dick Murdoch, and the Freebirds. One of his most famous heel turns came when he betrayed the Junkyard Dog, instantly making himself one of the most hated men in the region. He then formed a villainous group called the Rat Pack with Jim Dugan and Matt Bourne, dominating the territory for months. Eventually, his partnership with Duggan broke down, leading to a heated rivalry that ended in a loser leaves town match, which Ted lost. At the same time, he became known for a sneaky little trick that became his trademark. He carried a black glove in his tights, which he would secretly load up and use to knock out opponents while the referee wasn't looking. It was classic villain behavior, and fans hated him for it. But it worked perfectly to build his reputation as a ruthless heel. Ted's career wasn't just about the US territories, though. He also became a regular in Japan, working for All Japan Pro Wrestling. In October 1983, he won the NWA United National Championship by defeating Jerry Lawler in a tournament final. Sadly, just a few months later, he lost the belt to Michael Hayes. That same year, Ted's mother, Helen Hild, passed away, which hit him hard personally. In 1985, Ted teamed up with another American star, Stan Hansen, in Japan. The two became one of the most feared foreign tag teams in all Japan. Together, they won the PWF Tag Team Championship and even captured the famous World's Strongest Tag Team League in 1985, finishing first place. For 2 years, he and Hansen dominated the tag scene, proving that Ted wasn't just a singles star, he could shine in tag team wrestling too. By 1987, everything was about to change. Jim Crockett Promotions had bought out the UWF, and he was in talks with the National Wrestling Alliance. But then came an offer from Vince McMahon's WWF that he couldn't turn down. He didn't even know what character he was going to play, only that it would be a major push. Pat Patterson told him that if Vince McMahon himself ever became a wrestler, the gimmick he'd choose would be the one Ted was about to get. That gimmick, of course, was the $1 Million Man. Before making that jump, though, he closed out one more run in Japan with Hansen. They lost their tag belts to Jumbo Tsuruta and Tiger Mask in July 1987, regained them briefly, but were forced to vacate the titles once Ted officially left for WWF. Years later, in 1993, Ted made one last return to Japan. He reunited with Stan Hansen, and the two quickly won the World Tag Team Championship by defeating the team of Kawada and Taue, known as the Holy Demon Army. Unfortunately, injuries caught up with him soon after. A neck and back problem forced him out of the World's Strongest Tag League that year, and Giant Baba himself had to step in to replace him. That would effectively mark the end of Ted's in-ring career in Japan. Then he made his big return to the WWF on May 15, 1987, at a house show in Houston, Texas. But he didn't immediately jump into matches. He first walked to the ring just to announce that he finally belonged in the WWF. Of course, trouble followed him almost instantly. The one-man gang and his manager Slick came out for a scheduled match, and he had to be physically held back from jumping in. A few weeks later, at another house show, he had his first match, a loss to the one-man gang. He went on to lose 2 more times to Gang at house shows, but something was brewing. On June 26th, he teamed up with Sam Houston against the one-man gang and Ron Bass. Towards the end of the match, he suddenly turned on Houston after a missed drop kick, leaving him to be double-teamed and pinned. That was the moment he fully turned heel and set the stage for one of wrestling's most memorable characters. The very next day on WWF Superstars, he debuted his new persona, the Million Dollar Man. Instantly, he was someone you loved to hate. Dressed in a flashy, gold-studded suit, covered with dollar signs and eventually carrying his own diamond-encrusted $1 million championship belt, he was the embodiment of greed and arrogance. He bragged about his multiple homes across the US and the Caribbean and brought his loyal bodyguard Virgil along for every appearance. Virgil did everything from watching his back in matches to performing humiliating tasks for he, like rubbing his feet, all to drive home the point that his catchphrase was true. Everybody has a price. The gimmick was genius. He would show off his wealth by bribing people in ridiculous skits, paying off hotel clerks, waiters, or even random fans to humiliate themselves for cash. Sometimes he'd hand a $100 bill to a kid to complete a challenge and then snatch it away at the last second, leaving them empty-handed. In reality, he always paid off camera, but it didn't matter. The character made fans hate him in a fun, over-the-top way. His finishing move, the $1 Million Dream, a Cobra Clutch, often ended matches with him stuffing a $100 bill into his defeated opponent's mouth, which Virgil would quietly retrieve afterward. His first huge storyline in WWF came when he tried to buy the WWF World Heavyweight Championship from Hulk Hogan. Hogan refused, saying he would have to beat him in the ring. Frustrated, he approached Andre the Giant and convinced him to win the title on his behalf in a live episode of The Main Event. Andre did just that, pinning Hogan in a controversial finish where the referee was actually Andre's twin brother. He claimed the championship, but WWF President Jack Tunney later declared the title vacant because it wasn't won the proper way. At WrestleMania 4, a tournament was held to crown the new WWF champion. He made it to the finals after defeating Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Don Muraco, with a little help from Andre behind the scenes to keep Hulk Hogan from advancing. In the finals, though, he ran into Macho Man Randy Savage. Despite all his tricks, Savage, with Hogan interfering to neutralize his schemes, defeated him. But even in loss, he proved he could dominate storylines, and his feud with Savage over the WWF Championship continued that summer. One of the highlights was SummerSlam, where he and Andre the Giant took on Hogan and Savage in a tag team main event, a showcase of wrestling's biggest names clashing with egos, strength, and gold on the line. He continued to push his $1 Million Man persona by buying wrestlers' contracts and making them his slaves in storylines, like Hercules. He bought the number 30 entry spot in the 1989 Royal Rumble from Akeem, trying to cheat his way to victory, but was ultimately eliminated by Big John Studd. These antics, paired with constant scheming, kept him near the top of the card. He also introduced his own championship, the $1 Million Championship, because even all his wealth couldn't buy him the WWF World Heavyweight title from Hogan or Savage. His storylines blended clever villainy with real in-ring skill. He feuded with Jake the Snake Roberts, putting Roberts out of action for a few months, then defeated Jimmy Superfly Snuka at SummerSlam by countout. He also tangled with Hulk Hogan again, with the giant Zeus in his corner, but his schemes backfired and Hogan emerged victorious. He even created the $1 Million Team for Survivor Series, only to be eliminated by Hogan in the end, showing that even the richest and most cunning heel couldn't always win. In 1990, he faced more challenges. He was forced to enter the Royal Rumble as entrant number 1, breaking the record by lasting 45 minutes. His feud with Jake Roberts over the stolen $1 Million belt led to a WrestleMania 6 match, while his battles with Big Bossman and Dusty Rhodes brought more high-stakes drama to WWF programming. During Survivor Series, he introduced a mystery partner who turned out to be a debuting Undertaker, an early moment in the career of one of wrestling's greatest icons. By 1992, he shifted gears, forming the tag team Money Inc. With IRS, managed by Jimmy Hart, they dominated the tag division, winning the WWF Tag Team Championship 3 times and feuding with the likes of the Natural Disasters, the Steiner Brothers, and the Nasty Boys. His in-ring career slowed in 1993 after an injury, and he quietly retired from active wrestling to focus on other roles. though he returned to management and commentary in later years. Then he returned as the mastermind behind the $1 Million Corporation, buying up wrestlers' contracts and controlling a stable that included names like Bam Bam Bigelow, 1-2-3 Kid, and Psycho Sid. Even The Undertaker was briefly brought back under his control, though it turned out to be an imposter. He also helped introduce the Ringmaster, who would become Stone Cold Steve Austin, giving another superstar his start. His last in-ring involvement during this era was in 1996 before moving on to WCW, where he played a short-lived role in the NWO before retiring from full-time managing and wrestling. He returned to WWE multiple times in the 2000s, working as a creative consultant, appearing at legend ceremonies, and even stepping back in the ring for special appearances, like the Raw 15th Anniversary Battle Royal, where he proved once again that in the world of everyone truly does have a price. Over the years, he also helped his son, He Jr., get started in WWE, appeared in storylines on NXT with Cameron Grimes and LA Knight, and even bought the 24/7 championship in 2019, nearly 26 years after his last title win. And that's a wrap for today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.